I'm speaking with Allison Stillman. She is an author, a teacher, an aromatic alchemist, and a transformational coach. Today, we're talking about how to step into this goddess and queen part of our lives and how using aromatic essential oils can really help to enhance that part of our life and our connection to the divine. So enjoy. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast for this week. This week, we have a very interesting conversation about what it means to step into the goddess or the queen chapter of our lives. You know, we've lived a life of experience. You know, we've been a nurturer. There's been so many things that we have gone through as human beings and as women. But now we get to this point in our life where we have the health, the motivation, and the experience to step into something that can be very fulfilling and very meaningful. So today, my special guest is Allison Stillman. Hi, Allison. How are you?
Hi, Natalie. Happy to be here with you today.
Yeah. So Allison is a transformational coach, but she's also an aromatic alchemist. So we're going to be talking about all things goddess, all things, empowering in this part of our life, and how smells and scents and things can actually enhance that as well. So we were just briefly talking before we started recording the podcast today about what it means to step into this time of our life and how scary that can kind of be. So what does this mean to you, Allison? What are you seeing in the conversations and the people that you're working with?
Well, this seems to be pretty universal in my circles of friends and teachers and clients. And that is that we're really in this period of incubation right now. Actually, it's not really incubation, it's gestation. We're in the process of starting to give birth to ourselves. And birth, as we know as women, is not an easy, painless task. It's probably the most painful thing that you'll go through. And we're really being asked to rise as a collective of women together into the greatest expression of love and compassion and unity and community. Come you and I into unity that we've ever been asked to hold. And the old models, the old paradigms and belief systems that we have grown up with and been indoctrinated to no longer serve the new vision of what we're creating as a humanity as well. And we've gone through this last 2 years, and it's really been an opportunity for us to look at what no longer serves in our lives. And internally as well, the belief systems, the paradigms, and the programming that we were brought up with, it doesn't serve where we're going.
Right. I know. And, and I hear what you're saying, and I'm all aboard. But then I also go, oh God, well, I'm in my 50s. Like, do I have to step up right now? But I think that if we don't follow the calling, then that's going to be detrimental to us.
Yes. And it's funny that you say that, because many of my close friends, we say, after all this work we've done, we've been on this path for decades and decades and had the gurus and the spiritual teachers and the transformational leaders and the mentors, etc. Aren't we there yet? Well, look at the state of our world. It's the outward manifestation of what's going on internally. When we become that golden light and love internally in every fiber of our being, that's what we will see in the outside world. And that's really what's being asked of us. What kind of world do we want to create on the other side of the chaos that's going on in this world right now? And it's the same as birth. What kind of child do you want to bring into the world when you get through the incredible pain of giving birth? What do you want on the other side of that?
Okay, I love that. So looking at where we've come from, with the whole world has been in this pandemic, has been going through a collective experience. Not that we've all experienced it the same way, but it has been a collective experience. So what do you feel has been the overarching, gift that this pandemic or this virus has been for us?
I think it's really about presence in a way, that we're in the midst of what we're in the midst. And this is all part of a divine plan that we co-created as a species. And it wants to show us a different way. The chaos that we've been living in, and the old programs of, oh, we've got to hustle, we've got to work hard, we've got to make it happen, we've got to be competitive and aggressive, and all the negative aspects of the patriarchy that have really played itself out. We have to change that. We have to go back into union and connection with everything and everyone. And I think one of the things, I'm also a very involved environmental activist, and I work with Climate Reality, Al Gore's organization around climate change. And I think climate change is a big topic right now as well, because we're watching the earth, Mother Earth, go through birthing pains as well. And we need to tune into, how do we live sustainably just and with environmental justice for all? And the only way that I see that's possible is by letting go of the old and moving into love, compassion, and collective unity.
Yeah. And so we're talking about releasing what's no longer serving. And I would assume that there are some personal things for each of us that we have to look at and to release. But are there collective things that we should be looking at as humanity as a whole to be able to release?
Absolutely. And I think it has a lot to do with consumption, I would say, and moving back to a more simplistic lifestyle and honoring the plants and the flowers and the trees and the animals and our co-creative community with those elements, because they sustain us. If we're not in collective awareness of all of those elements, we will not be here as a species. And I think that we're also moving from a very, what's the politically correct way to say this? We're moving more from a patriarchal into a matriarchal society. And the patriarchy was very established in being outside of themselves and providing for the home and providing and creating and, going after the bacon, if you will. Mm-hmm. And the women have always been the ones home, nurturing, giving birth, collectively emoting together and more in touch with our intuitive side. And I think those elements are the things that need to be birthed fully into both the masculine and the feminine, so that we can allow love and compassion to rule the day. If you look at a lot of the spiritual teachers these days and religious leaders, like the Dalai Lama said, it's going to be the women that are going to heal the world. It's not going to be the men, because we have been the nurturers since time immemorial, right? And I think those are the things that we really need to look at and move into. And the old way has to go away now, or we won't survive.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think too, like we do talk a lot about, the masculine, the feminine, patriarchal, matriarchal. Obviously we are talking about both coming together and moving forward, but from a different energy, from a different perspective, because it has been a hustle and grind. I was with a group of girlfriends. We had like a girls' weekend, which was fabulous. And, I know a lot of my girlfriends are kind of like slowing down now. So the grind and everything has started to calm. And now they're like, okay, so how do I shift what I'm doing to leave more of a legacy, to make more of a difference? For me, it's, the children's curriculum, the social emotional learning curriculum. So yes, my movies is great. And we've been hustling and working and getting that moving. We've reached 10 million people through that company, which is crazy.
Just got to raise my hand and celebrate that.
Right. It's a lot, but it's like, yes, this is great. But now what is something that is more meaningful? And we can look at the world and go, okay, there are hundreds and thousands of things that we can look at to improve. But for me, it's like, okay, well, what's my lane? I can definitely champion the environment and whatever else, but I'm like, no, this is my lane. I need to put all my effort into this to be able to create some kind of a difference. So with the women and people that you're working with, do you help them like navigate through this time to figure out what it is that they should be stepping into next?
Absolutely. That's one of the things that I love the most about the conscious alchemy coaching that I do, is that I've been working with people for about 35 years now to clear old programming and old belief systems from the subconscious and implant new programs and paradigms. And also the piece that's really so fabulous and fun for me is the aromatherapy piece, because using essential oils, the limbic system is the fastest way to access the emotional and behavioral centers of the brain, as well as long-term memory. So if you're doing certain things like saying affirmations and watching mind movies, and you're putting those new programs in, if you're also at the same time simultaneously using certain essential oils to retrain the emotional and behavior centers of the brain and the neural networks of the brain, then it's a whole system is working in collaboration to create or to unveil a new you, because it's really the essence of who we are. I believe, and I know that you've spent a lot of time around Dr. Joe, I do believe we are supernatural beings. And I'll share a quick little story with you, because this has been a huge thing for me. About 10 years ago, I'm a double Aries. So I am very Mars driven, independent, do it myself. I've done a lot of different things in my life. And about 10 years ago, I started injuring my left side. I broke my big toe. I cracked my shin, and I was laid up and I could not move, and I had to stay immobile. And I went into meditation and I said, okay, why is this happening? What is this teaching me? What do I need to see behind this? And the message was, you have been pushing, making things happen, going, doing. And it's not about that anymore. You need to bring the masculine part of yourself behind now and allow it to support the feminine part of who you are, which is the intuitive, the allowing, the creative part of myself. And so I did this marriage within myself, and I allowed the masculine to move behind and allow the feminine to come to the forefront. And now it's more about holding the vision of what it is, and you know this from my movies, holding the vision of your future self, of what you're wanting to manifest, and becoming the vibration of it and allowing it to come to you, allowing it to manifest through you, not because you're out hustling to make it happen. And so that was a really big teaching for me on a personal level. And I see that's being asked of both men and women. We need to marry those sacred parts of ourselves, but it's the feminine, it's the intuitive, it's the loving, caring, compassionate, collective part that needs to be in the forefront, and it needs to allow things to manifest, because we are supernatural. We can manifest anything we want in our lives.
I love that. I have an experience around that as well, which just made me think of that when you were telling that story. And I was in ceremony with plant medicine. And I wanted to, tap into my feminine. As you can imagine, building a company like this, there's a lot in my masculine a lot. And I remember, drinking the medicine, going back to my place and not feeling well. My intention for the ceremony was to be in my feminine. And I'm like, it's okay, I'll just purge, and I'm on my hands and knees and I'm over the bucket. And I'm like trying to purge and nothing's coming out. And in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I'll be here all night if I have to, just to make this happen. Like I'm going to, and then the voice comes in and goes, so that's your masculine. And I'm like, oh, damn it. And honestly, I struggled for like a good hour. And in the end, the only thing that released me from the struggle was the surrender. And this is what you're talking about. It's the allowing, it's the opening, it's the softening. It's the realizing that we don't have to hustle and grind to make things happen. But if we are showing up and being and embodying, the person that we need to be to fill this, next chapter of whatever it is that we want to do, we don't have to hustle so much, and honestly, with this children's program, there have been so many serendipitous, beautiful things that have fallen into place that makes me realize that even sometimes I want to walk away and this is too hard. Like I'm tackling schools. Like, what was I thinking? But I've had too many amazing things fall into place. Like that's something that I couldn't have possibly planned for in a million years. That, is just reinforcing, no, you're exactly where you're meant to be. All you need to do is to stay open, to keep moving forward, but to stay open to the gifts that are coming and recognize them as they do. So I'm loving this about this part of my life.
Yes. And that's so true. And it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of one of the biggest lessons right now is staying in presence, because when you stay in presence and you're open to the gifts and the synchronicities, then you're on the right track. I always tell the universe, okay, if I'm supposed to move or go or do something, allow it to happen with ease and grace. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, that's the next thing, because it happens magically, coincidentally. I don't believe in coincidences, but with such synchronicity that your personality or your ego goes, well, I could deny that, but you can't, because it's
That's
so
right, you
apparent. Yeah, it's so apparent. Exactly. Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about, Aromatic Alchemist, which I like. That's so lovely. I love that. But we were talking a little bit before about how, smells and scents, working with the limbic system. So tell me a little bit more about that. And are there specific scents that elicit different, reactions?
Yes. Yes and yes. So in the course of my studies and love and passion to learn more about the world of sacred aromatics, I've done a couple of different studies. One was 2 years with a recovery home for women. And I went in once a week and I worked with various different oils to see how it would impact them and affect them. And I'll never forget the first time I went into this room of 40 women. And these are hardcore women who've come out of jail, off the streets, out of abusive homes, et cetera. And they're hardened. And I would walk into the room and they'd all have their hoods up and their arms crossed and the scowls on their faces. And it's like, what could you do for me? And I pass around 2 or 3 different oils. And by the end of it, they're crying, they're laughing, they're hugging me. When can you come back? So it's impacted, just a few different smells have impacted their emotional center, brought more joy, triggered memories of happiness times, those kinds of things. And then I did another study. It was about 1.5 years long in a convalescent care center with Alzheimer's and dementia residents, learning how scent could affect the symptoms of those 2 different maladies. And it was astonishing. It was originally going to be a 6-week research, and I fell in love with everybody, so I kept going for the next 1.5 years. I learned how, even if you've lost your sense of smell, which a lot of dementia and Alzheimer's patients do lose their sense of smell, you still can elicit memory and feeling. Like they could describe the characteristics of the essential oil they were inhaling, even though they couldn't smell it. And it would elicit memories of 50 years ago, 25 years ago, that they hadn't thought of since that time. And here everyone says, oh, they have no memory. Well, they do. You just don't know how to access it, right? So essential oils are just really powerful. And they've done a lot of studies on how certain smells impact your ability to learn, to retain information, impact your sales. Like they did a really interesting study where they took a showroom of sneakers and trainers and walking shoes and running shoes, and they divided it in half, and they scented one room with essential oils, and the other room had no fragrance whatsoever. And the sales of the shoes in the fragranced room increased by 85%.
Wow. Wow.
So that just gives you an example of how powerful scent is to elicit emotion and behavior and memory, to the extent that, you're working with those kinds of oils. And of course, essential oils have been used in ritual and ceremony and religious rites for thousands and thousands of years. In recorded history, it goes back about 10,000 years. And the work that I remembered, I will say, started about 35 years ago, and it was work that was done in the temples of Egypt, the ancient rites of passage and anointing passages. And through the course of many, many months using essential oils in my meditation, I recalled an ancient lifetime in the temple of Dendara and brought forth this work and wrote my book about it, taught lots of workshops about it. And so my fascination really is with more the emotional, spiritual, and higher experiences around using essential oils. And in the many years that I've done this work, I will say that anointing with essential oils is by far and away the fastest way to activate divinity of anything I've ever done.
Wow. And so are there specific oils that can do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
There are.
I mean, are they are there specific scents, or is it a blend, or how do you do that?
Well, I, of course, have lots of blends that I make that have all of the spiritual and holy oils in them. And depending on the region of the world that you're in and perhaps religious practice, you'll find different scents that different people have used. Like in India, sandalwood is a really big one. In the Middle East, frankincense is really big. In South America, it's Palo Santo. And in Mexico, it's copal. Native Americans here in the United States, white sage is a really big one for them because it clears out energies that you don't want so that you can allow those higher realms and higher awarenesses to be more predominant.
Yeah, no, I love that. Now, you can actually reach out to Allison on her website, which is allisonstillman.com. And Allison is with 2 L's. And I've noticed that there are a number of blends there as well. So if you wanted to find out about that. So if we are using, essential oils like this, should we be using a diffuser? Can you put them directly on the skin? What's the best way that you can use them?
So I always err on the side of caution, and I always tell any student or client never to use essential oils undiluted on the skin. Right. Now, that said, there are certain oils. The CDC did a report or research project on trying to kill off West Nile virus. And so they were looking at essential oils, and then they were looking at other viruses because antibiotics stopped working as well. And they found there's certain essential oils that will actually kill off all bacteria and virus within 60 minutes of applying it. So if I were to get a really bad staph infection on my leg, I'd probably use some oils directly on that. Right. It would eat away at the skin because they're so volatile and they're so strong and concentrated. However, lavender is one that I will make an exception for. You can use that in very small quantities directly on the skin to kill off infection or disinfect or antibacterial, or 1 or 2 drops to sleep at night on your pillow or the back of your neck to relieve stress. Lavender is one that I would make an exception to. And then as far as diffusing essential oils is really great to change a lot of different things. One, it depends on the diffuser that you're using, but if you actually are getting the live aromatic molecules into the air, all essential oils are antiviral and antibacterial. So in today's environment, if you've got somebody who's sick in your house and you don't want to get sick, it'd be a good thing to have essential oils diffusing into your home. And there's certain oils that you probably wouldn't want to diffuse that are much more caustic. And then there's also cautions around pets, because cats in particularly have a hard time digesting essential oils out of their liver. And dogs, since they smell 500 times more than we do.
Yes.
You want to just be cautious with pets. And there's a lot of information out there about which ones to use, which ones not to use, how long to diffuse. But I always have oils going every couple of days because I have a cat. So I'm very considerate of her and which oils that I use. But I like the more spiritual oils because I like I like staying in that state. I like being in
Right.
that high vibration. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you can enhance your meditations, with, essential oils. And I think
Yes.
I was telling a story, a while ago about how when I used to do my visualization about bringing my partner in, I would have tea. My girlfriend has a company called Magic Hour Tea, and
Gina.
she has a Zena. She's
Yes.
one of my closest friends, and her blend, the Soulmate blend, and it's got rose and cacao and different things. So it's like Turkish delight in a glass. It's amazing. So I would do my visualization, but I would have that sitting on the love altar, as I'm doing my little meditation there as well. So that was enhanced. So every time I have that now, it's like, and I'm manifesting it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and rose has been the symbol of love for thousands of years, and it is one of the most powerful aphrodisiacs, and it's actually been studied. Its electromagnetic frequency has been studied. A lot of different oils have been. We resonate somewhere between 55 to 75, depending on how healthy we are or stressed, etc. And rose comes in pure rose oil, which is very hard to find these days, but pure rose oil came in around 300. So you can just imagine how that's raising your own frequency. And for me, my mission in life is to raise the frequency of love on the planet. And I do that through all the different things that I do. But I'm always about, okay, if I'm going to do that, I got to be the highest frequency of love that I can possibly be. So I use rose almost every single day.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Allison, thank you so much for being with us today. As I said, I encourage you to go over to Allison's website, which is allisonstillman.com, Allison with 2 L's. And you can actually get connected with the book there. You can get connected with Allison. You can find out about the different blends that she has there of the essential oils. And I encourage you to bring some of that beautiful sense into your daily life. Make it, infuse it into the daily practices that you already have to really enhance that as well. So thanks
Absolutely.
again, Allison. So great
Thank you
chatting with
so
you.
much. Thank you so much, Natalie. It's delightful, as always, to have incredibly inspired conversation. So thank you.